Hi, I'm George Pearson, and these are just a few examples from some of the training videos I have here on YouTube. Now, when you're working with the training, following along the training, if you want to get the materials I used in the training, just go to the description down below and click on the link that's at the top of the description, and this will take you to a page where you can download the materials. Please subscribe, click the like button, and of course always share on Facebook, Twitter, or wherever. I really appreciate that. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with the video. In this Photoshop Elements project, we're going to make this Christmas tree card. There's a few interesting things in here. We'll be doing a Christmas tree using shapes, doing a little bit of fun stuff here with some text. This is something which a little poem I found online. And we'll be doing some interesting things in here in the background using a custom fill pattern. Okay, let's go ahead and see how this whole thing is built. We'll start off right from scratch with a brand new file. Let's just close that out. We'll start with a default size here, File, New, Blank File, and we'll do the default Photoshop Elements size, which is 6x4 and 300 DPI resolution. Choose OK. There we go. Now the first thing we want to do is to build the Christmas tree. I think it's a little bit larger here so you can see this, and just come in just a bit. Alright, that's pretty good. You can see the whole height now. Okay, now to build this tree, I first want to have some lines in here to work with. I want to have a center line. Now it's at 6 inches wide, so 3 inches is the center line. Pull a guideline in from the left side ruler. There we go. If you're not seeing your rulers, just click upon View, and you can choose your rulers right there. Make sure your guides are checked as well. So that's our center line. Everything is built from that center point. We now want to have some guidelines in here for the left, right side, top, and bottom. Just give us some place to build inside of. So the left guide is at 1 3/4, which is right about there. It doesn't need to be exact. As long as you're about right, that's pretty good. The right side is at 4 1/4, right there. So that gives us the width of the base of the tree. We want to stop the tree, or actually begin the height of the tree here at 3/4, so we're down a little bit. That gives us space for the Christmas tree heading up there, and the star be right in this area here. Want to finish the bottom of the tree down here at about 3 5/8. So 3 4/8 is right in the middle right there. That's 3 1/2 is 3 4/8. And then 2 more of those little notches there, that's 3 5/8, right about there. So we'll finish off with the little tree trunk down underneath here, but that gives us our basic position to put the tree into. You can always adjust the shape later on. Now go over here, make sure your colors are set at the default foreground and background. We'll build the tree shape using a black color. Now to build the tree, we'll be using graphics. Go over here to graphics. Here we are. A couple of things in here. First, since I'm just at this position already, I'm going to take this square, double click, and we'll put that square right onto the page. Now it's coming in as white, so let me make sure that we have that coloration correct in here. Okay, I'll make our color black. There we are. I'm just on the shape tool here. It doesn't matter which shape you're on. These all will have the same color choice right there, little color pixel. Make sure that that is set to you black, and that will then set your shape at black as well. Okay. Now this will be the trunk, so you can just shrink this down a bit and then stick it over here somewhere. It doesn't matter. We'll come back to that in just a minute. That just gets us there because I happen to be on that location. Now this is way down towards the bottom of the shape. As you can see, here's our scroll bar, and we're in the graphics and shapes way down towards the bottom. There's the snowflakes, kind of fun for Christmas cards, and then below those we have that square. There's the star, by the way. We'll be using that star on the top of the tree. You can use a snowflake if you want to as well. It's up to you. Okay, I'll scroll down a little bit further, and even further down towards the bottom there is a triangle. There we go. Double click, puts that triangle on the page. And this is the top triangle, so I'll pull it up and then hold the Alt key down, which is going to shrink this from the center, or right to the, so you can see how it just kind of stays centered. at the top and choose OK. Let's double click again. This is the middle of our tree. Let's pull it up a little bit. Double click one more time. This is the base of the tree. Now hold the Alt key down again. Pull this out until that kind of fits those guidelines that we did. There we go. So there's the basic tree shape. And then this will be the trunk. I'm going to make it a little bit skinnier. And just stick that just about like that. Okay, good enough. We'll put in some coloration into this a little bit later. You can adjust these individual tree sections up and down any way you want to once this is done. We're now going to be putting in our text, and we'll use this tree as our basic position. I'm leaving everything in separate layers at the moment. Notice here we have 3 layers for our shapes. These are the 3 triangles, and this bottom one here is the tree trunk. I'm leaving these as separate shapes in case I want to reposition them a little bit after we have our text on here. Once I have it all set, we'll then merge these triangles into one shape. But I think just to keep things clear, I'll leave the trunk at the bottom. I'll pull the large shape down right above the trunk and the middle-sized shape there. So these are now in the same stacking order on the layers as they are over here. It doesn't really matter. It's just visually it's easier to spot. You know, if I'm looking for the middle triangle, it's the middle triangle. Okay, now for some text. We'll need the Type tool, which is right there. And the first thing we'll do is we'll put in the title of the poem, which is A Christmas Tree. And you can make your text anything you want. I'm going to put this in as black right now, and then we'll adjust that later. And I'm using a typeface for this called Show Card. And let me find where, there we go. There it is, Show Card Gothic Regular. Just a big, fat, interesting typeface. Use anything you like. Again, if something real fat is nice, something with a lot of black area in there. The size that I have, let me pull this back over here again. The size that I'm using on this particular one is 20 point for the top size. So let me just set that at 20 point here. Type in 20. And I'll just type any old place up here is fine. We can now just position that. So far we're just bringing in the elements, just bringing in the pieces. We'll move everything around and recolor everything once we have all the stuff on here. Okay, the next one is our poem. And for that, let's go back to our Type tool. I'll be using a different typeface. This is going to be Times New Roman. And that's a bit further down, real standard typeface. I'm just using the wheel on my mouse here to scroll down. So here we go, Times New Roman, bold, italic. Now notice that I'm on the wrong layer there. Let me make sure that I just click into a new layer. There we go. Make sure I'm not getting off onto the wrong thing here. Okay, Times New Roman, bold, italic. There it is. Set this one at 10 points, so it's about half the size. We'll be adjusting that as well. Now this is going to be sitting on top of the tree, so I want to have this one in white. So click on this, set this to white. So our color is white. And we now need to have the poem. Now I have this poem right here. I found this online, and you can find it right there. There's the link to that poem. I'll have this link in the description so you can get the poem from the same location. I'm just going to copy the text, right click copy, and let's get that out of the way. And I'll come up here someplace centered. Now notice that my type is also centered right there. Okay, let's just click on that center line, and I'm going to do a Control V, which is paste. Let's just paste that line in. Now it's kind of hard to see that in the background. We can't really see the text in behind there, so I'm going to give this an outline so we can see where our text is. We'll get rid of the outline later on, but for right now, layer, layer style, style settings, give it a stroke, and one's pretty good, just a little thin outline, just enough so you can see where that type is. Now you can't put text into a shape, make it fit inside of the shape inside of Elements. You can do some specific shapes with text, but you can't do Christmas trees. You can't even do triangles. So we'll be faking this on top. And the way you do that is just to come into your text and hit an Enter key. And it just moves it down one. So I'm just going to come down and break my text up into new lines, trying to find lines that will fit properly inside of the shape of the tree. I'll just back up here. And it may take a little bit of trial and error until you get this just right. And you may have some overlap like that line if it doesn't quite fit. That's okay. We'll fix that in just a minute. But looking pretty good. So I'm just faking where the wrap is to try to get it to fit inside of the tree shape nicely. And let's just do one right there. Now if it goes offline like this, just back up and put a space in. Almost have it. Not bad. I think we could do a little better. I'm going to try going back a little bit here and then just changing my choices on here. And see if we can improve this a bit. So as you can see, it's a little bit of trial and error until you get it just the way you want. But we're getting very close now. And I'm just going back and forth a little bit here to get just the line breaks that I want. Not really sure about this one. I think I'll do that. There we go. So I want to have that last line all by itself. Now once you have this down, you can move this around a little bit until you get it where you want it. You also can grab these sides. You can squeeze this in a little bit if it helps. So I'm bringing this in just a bit here. I want to get that bit up here, presents underneath. I want to get that completely onto the tree. And I'll just move it around. I'm using the arrow keys, the cursor keys on my keyboard right now just to nudge this around a little bit. And there we go. So that's all nicely fitting. We now can change the layer styles on this. Go back to our layer style settings. We no longer need stroke. We are going to be using a drop shadow, so I'll just put a drop shadow on here and we'll come back and adjust that later on. Okay, so that's all set to go. The text up here, we're going to be changing this to white later on. But at this point, we can now, since everything looks pretty good, I'm going to move this middle tree shape just a touch down, I think. Just kind of nudge that down just a little bit. That all looks good. I'm now going to merge these three shapes. Click on the top triangle, hold the Shift key down, click on the bottom triangle, right click, and let's merge those shapes into one shape. So there's our Christmas tree shape, and then this one is the trunk down below. Let's just name these. That's the tree, and that's the trunk. Now we can put some color in here. Let me just get this moved over a little bit like that and go back to our foreground color. Let's find a nice kind of tree green in here. Now we have white lettering on top, so a little darker is better than a little lighter. So if you're thinking between this one and this one, go for the little darker color. Let's get this out of the way. Make sure that you're on the paint bucket over here. And then click into the Christmas tree, and it gives us our green Christmas tree color. Now we can see the drop shadow. We can adjust that drop shadow, but we'll come back to that and just do that as a final tweak. Let's now come down to the trunk, do the exact same thing with the trunk. Change the foreground color though to a brown. Let's just pull this down to our brown colors. That's pretty good. and I'll click into the trunk. There's the brown for the trunk. That's the basic setting now for the Christmas tree. We now want to do the background. Now, this is a little bit interesting. There's a few interesting fun steps on this. First thing, change your colors back to their defaults and then reverse the colors so you have white in here. This is our basic setting. We're going to be filling this in with our snowflakes, which is a custom brush. Before that though, let's make our new background coloration. So click on the new layer here. Click on your foreground color and you're going to find a nice deep blue. Something in there. It doesn't need to be an exact color match. I'm just choosing a dark blue. Looks pretty good. There's the color if you want to match that exactly. It's 0342B5. But again, it doesn't matter. It's just in the middle of the blue range here on the full saturation side and down to the darker area. So that's our blue color. Paint bucket and fill. That fills the tree. Now at this point, we can adjust the Christmas tree text. Since we can now see that, so triple click on that to select it. Let's come down to the coloration here, change that color to white, and choose OK. So there's the white. Let's give that a drop shadow. Layer, layer style, style settings, drop shadow. I'll leave that as is for the moment. We'll adjust that later if needed. Okay, now we're going to go back and put in our snowflakes. Let's make a new layer right there. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. It's going to fit in the window a little bit better. So you can see what I'm doing here with these snowflakes. See all of my tools down below. And we can get rid of these guidelines at this point. We no longer need those. So view and let's just hide the guides. Okay, go on to our new layer here. There we go, new layer, layer 2. The snowflakes go on here. Make sure your color is set at white. Let's go to our paint bucket. Color set at white, and that's good. Now we're going to be going over here to pattern. Now the pattern I have is a custom pattern. Christmas tree pattern, as you can see right down there. Now the link for this pattern is in the description and also on the download page. You can get that link real easily. Now to load a pattern set in here, one of these default pattern sets, save the pattern file any place on your computer. Make sure that if it's in a zip mode, you've unzipped it and you have a .pat file, .pat file for pattern. Then simply go up to this little icon, come down to load patterns and navigate to where you have that pattern saved on your hard drive, and then click on that pattern. It will then load that pattern in at the bottom of your current pattern set. This is the default pattern set, and these are the Christmas patterns which I have as a default pattern set. What I'm using is right there. It's the second pattern down, and it's simply a Christmas snowflake pattern. Now let's start off here by moving this down to about 10%. Let me just type that and get it exact. 10%. And click in here to fill that background up with those snowflakes. The real faint snowflakes, as you can see. Now notice that I can hold my cursor over the area around the flecks or over a snowflake. What you want to do now is to change your opacity to 50%. I'm just going to type it in. And click in between the snowflakes. And then do this a few times. And what you get is kind of an outline around the snowflakes. I clicked about 8 times or so. It gives you a little outline. Let's just zoom in on this. You can see it a little bit better. There you go. Just kind of an outline around your snowflakes. Okay, hold the Alt key down and I'll zoom back out again. So that gives us our basic snowflake. Now I want to improve some of these snowflakes. So we're going to go back to our fill, change the opacity here to 25%, and then click inside of a few snowflakes. I'll click into that one. I'm just going to do just a few, not too many. Do the real small ones here. So if I click inside, it fills the snowflake with that value. Click outside, and then you get the outline thing happening. So there's a few at 25%. Let's now set this to 50%, and let's click on a few more. These will be a little bit brighter. And just going around just choosing a few. There we go. Let's change this now to 75%, and we'll do a few more. You can see it's getting a lot brighter. Maybe I need to get some of these small ones in here. There we go. Let's now change this all the way up to 100%, and let's do just a few more real bright ones. And that gives us some variation, as you can see here. So we have some light snowflakes, some medium snowflakes, some darker snowflakes, and just kind of put them in randomly. I'm not getting too close to the tree here, as you can see. I'm leaving the tree a little bit alone so we don't have any real competition with that tree shape. Some of the smaller ones are okay near the tree. I think that looks pretty good. So just a basic snowflake. Now if you want to leave things monochromatic, you can leave it right there. So let's first finish off the rest of this card. We'll then come back and do a fancier multicolor trick on the snowflakes. So this is version 1 with just the blue snowflakes. Let's now put a drop shadow on the tree, and I'll zoom in a bit again so you can see this a bit better. There we go. So click on the tree, click on Layer, Layer Style, Style Settings, drop shadow. Let's bring the distance out a little bit and the size out just a touch. About 10. Just kind of softens up that edge. You can adjust the lighting angle if you want to, but I think in there looks pretty good. 124%. Looks pretty good. Choose OK. Let's now copy this layer style and put it onto the trunk as well. So right click where it says tree, and we're going to copy layer style. Right click on trunk, paste layer style. That just gives us a copy of that shadow. Okay, that's good. Let's go back to our Christmas tree poem, and let's see if we can adjust that a little bit. Layer, Layer Style, Style Settings. We have just the drop shadow. Let's just play with that distance just a little bit, and I'll bring the opacity up a little bit darker. I just want to make it easier to see that type. Actually, clear to 100 works out just fine on that. Well, maybe 90 on that. Looks pretty good. So we can now read the type. That's good. Let's go back to our Christmas tree right here. And again, same thing. Layer, Layer Style, Style Settings. Let's adjust the distance a bit. Just bring that down. Just a little bit more separation in there. And just a little more on the size to soften up the edge of that shadow, that drop shadow. There we go. Okay, that is version 1 except for the star. Let's put our star in. The star goes above the Christmas tree. Click on Graphics, and I'm using the wheel on my mouse. Let's just roll up until I find the star again. There's the star. Now, let's go back to our layers just for a second. Sometimes I found when I try to put the star on this kind of a thing, I end up clicking on that text. So let's just lock the text, and I'll lock that Christmas tree text layer as well. Just lock those two layers. That way you won't accidentally be clicking on those and moving things around. Okay, back to the tree layer, back to our graphics. Make sure your foreground color is white. Let's go over here to shape and double check the shape color. Aha, there we go. Shape color is in green still, so let's click on this, change that to white. And I'm on the wrong layer again. Let's undo that. Yeah, so we don't get really messed up here. Let's just put a new layer in. That will take care of that problem. New layer, shape, white. That's good. Back to our graphics. Double click on the star, and there's the star. Let's just pull that up. Hold the Alt key down, and that will resize from the middle. And we can then position that star just where you want it. It's up to you on where you want that star to be. But there we go. So there's the star. All right, now that's the first look of this, the first version. If you want to go fancier on this, we can go fancier on this. You can make adjustments at this point. Let's say I wanted to bring this tree up a little bit. You can adjust the tree size, as you can see right now. So now's a chance to come in and do any of these little tweaks that you want to do. Okay, let's now do the fancy coloration in here on the snowflakes. This is pretty easy. Take the snowflake layer, drag it up onto the new layer button, and that duplicates that layer. Notice how it's a lot brighter too. See, if you just want to have brighter snowflakes, that's the way you do it. So there's one copy, there's two copies. It just brightens the whole thing up. Let's go one step further and let's put in some color into these snowflakes. Now, this is a real fun little trick. Hold the Control key down, that's your lower left-hand key on your keyboard, and click into the icon, and that selects just the snowflakes. So they're all now selected. I'll pull this over a little bit. Let's go here to the gradient tool, click on your gradients, and then select that rainbow gradient right there. Choose OK. Now I'm going to just open the window up a little bit. I'm going to pull the gradient from the upper left-hand corner down to the bottom right-hand corner. So let's do a gradient just like that. And that gives us that rainbow gradient just inside of the snowflakes. We can now deselect. And last thing, to get this looking real nice and clean, let's go back to the Move tool right there, kind of hiding in behind. And on this layer, let's change the blending mode from normal to pin light. Right there. It's just a little different, subtle different look on that, but I think it looks better. If we go back here to normal, you see kind of this dark band over in this area here on the left-hand side of the tree, little dark area. That's just where a dark section of that gradient was. We have the the dark blues in there and so forth. So we can clean that up by changing this to pin light, which kind of brightens up that section. So there we go. That is how to make this Christmas tree poem Christmas card with some clever little tricks in here as well on using patterns. Thank you for watching this special Photoshop photography project video. Don't forget to subscribe so that you will get first notice of new project videos in the future. Just click on this link right here where it says subscribe here. You can get all 12 project videos in this series along with 26 special videos demonstrating the tools and techniques that I used in these projects by clicking on this link right down here. And then thank you again for watching this training video.